Chapter 1. You did what? Elias Crow woke up to silk sheets, ocean skies, and a diamond collar digging lightly into his neck. He blinked, then blinked again. This was not his apartment, or a hotel room, or anything remotely normal. There was soft jazz playing, the scent of fresh coffee. And, "Good morning," came a calm, ice-smooth voice. Elias jerked upright, the blanket slipping down his bare chest. Across from him, seated in a leather chair like a goddamn king in a boardroom, was him, Magnus Thornhart, cold-hearted CEO, billionaire of nightmares, walking scandal magnet. And the man Elias had definitely only meant to hook up with last night. "Where the hell am I?" Elias demanded, looking around. White leather, polished mahogany, gentle turbulence. "Is this a plane?" "A jet," Magnus corrected softly, standing with a faint smile. "Mine." Elias gaped at him, then noticed what Magnus was holding. A thick folder, bound in black leather. At least 300 pages. "What is that?" Elias asked, already bracing for the worst. "Your copy," Magnus said, placing it on the bed. "Of the marriage contract." Elias blinked, laughed once, then laughed again, louder. "You're kidding," he said. Magnus tilted his head, expression unreadable. "I made it before our date, just in case." "You what?" Elias yanked the blanket tighter around himself. "We hooked up once. One night, you were drunk." "I was perfectly sober," Magnus said calmly. "You were enthusiastic." Elias groaned and threw a pillow at him. Magnus caught it with one hand. "This is insane," Elias snapped. "You can't just wake up next to someone and decide they're your spouse." Magnus's tone was dangerously gentle. "You kissed me like you already were." Heat rushed to Elias's face. Damn it, that had been good, too good. "Still, this is illegal. I never signed." "You did." Magnus gestured to the file. "Page 72. You initialed every clause. Very messy signature, but we had it notarized." "I was drunk," Elias screeched. "You also added a post-it note on page 105. It says, 'Make sure he wears only cashmere.'" Elias screamed into a pillow. Flashback 12 hours earlier. Elias had known better. He always did. But the challenge of seducing the famously untouchable Magnus Thornhart was too good to pass up. They'd met at a charity gala, Magnus in a three-piece suit, looking like a man who'd never smiled in his life. Elias had walked up with 2 drinks, one eyebrow raised, and the kind of smirk that usually got him laid or slapped. Turned out Magnus liked trouble, and Elias, he was trouble. They'd left the gala before dessert. The sex had been transcendent. Rough hands, whispered things Elias didn't understand but made his heart pound. Magnus had worshipped him like something fragile and precious, like Elias could shatter if he wasn't held right. And Elias, stupid, reckless Elias, had whispered, "Don't let this be a one-time thing." Drunk. High on lust. Stupid. Present. "I said that in bed," Elias groaned. "It doesn't count." "I never joke about commitment," Magnus said, "especially not with you." Elias looked at the contract again. Diamond-studded initials, clauses about shared assets, living arrangements, children. Wait, what the hell is this? Elias jabbed at a highlighted section. Magnus leaned in. "Ah, yes. In the event of offspring, you are entitled to..." "Offspring? I am a man." Magnus stared at him. "Yes, and?" "And?" "There are certain things I haven't told you yet," Magnus said carefully. Elias threw a second pillow. "Nope, no. We're not doing this." He jumped out of bed, only to realize he wasn't wearing pants, or underwear, or anything except the collar. "Where are my clothes?" "Dry cleaned," Magnus replied smoothly. "We're about to land. I'll have them brought to your suite." Elias froze. "Land? Where the hell are we going?" "I wanted to talk privately," Magnus said, "without distractions, so I brought you home." The jet dipped. Through the window, Elias saw it, a sprawling estate surrounded by turquoise waters, palm trees, Marble balconies? Private docks? Elias's mouth went dry. You kidnapped me. Magnus didn't even blink. You got on the jet yourself. I thought it was a sex plane, like round 2. That can still happen. I hate you. I love you. Elias screamed again. Chapter 2. This is not a honeymoon. Elias Crow had been to exotic islands before, but never as a hostage wearing a diamond collar with a deranged billionaire calling him beloved. This isn't a honeymoon, Elias snapped for the 6th time that morning, kicking open the French doors of the beachside villa Magnus had flown him to. This is a high-budget kidnapping. Magnus followed behind him with the serenity of a Buddhist monk on a personal retreat. Except the retreat was Elias, and the serenity was borderline obsession. I've prepared your favorite breakfast, Magnus offered gently. Eggs Benedict, with edible gold flakes. Where did you even get gold flakes? We are in the middle of the ocean. I own the ocean. You, what? That's not a normal sentence. Magnus blinked slowly, as if Elias was the one being unreasonable. Day 1, on the island. Elias was a menace. He threw towels into the infinity pool, accidentally burned Magnus's tailored shirts with a hair straightener, and flirted shamelessly with the poor, terrified staff just to make Magnus jealous. It didn't work. It backfired. Every time Elias bent over too slowly, winked too hard, or bit into fruit with too much lip, Magnus would go red, completely silent, ears pink, then trail behind him like a loyal golden retriever, carrying a shawl in case Elias got cold. You're not supposed to like being seduced, Elias snapped, storming into the bedroom one evening after yet another failed attempt to scare him off. I love when you seduce me, Magnus replied, voice low and uncomfortably earnest. But you don't have to try so hard. You already own me. Elias almost tripped over a rug. 3 days later, Magnus somehow through blackmail, bribery, hypnosis, Elias would never know convinced him to return to the city with him. Not because Elias agreed, but because somehow, Magnus convinced him that staying in the mansion would be better for the baby. There is no baby, Elias screamed at him as they stepped into the jet. Magnus only smiled. Public chaos begins. When they landed, Elias's phone exploded. News headline. Cold-hearted CEO seen cuddling with mysterious pretty man in airport lounge. Is Magnus Thornhart in love? Mystery boy toy, identified as Elias Crow, known for bartending, backtalk, and breaking hearts. #Magnelius was trending. Magnus had no idea what that meant. Elias was halfway between horrified and flattered. I hate you, Elias muttered as flashbulbs exploded around them. I bought you a media rights contract. You get 50% of any tabloid profit made using your face. I hate you less now. Mansion life, the chaotic version. It has been 2 months that Elias moved in with Magnus, and their life is chaotic as ever. Elias moved into the West Wing, mostly to throw things from a distance. Magnus responded to tantrums with imported chocolates and blank checks. One morning, Magnus found Elias in the kitchen at 2 a.m., dipping olives into peanut butter and growling at a bag of gluten-free bread. Is that dinner? Magnus asked cautiously. I don't know, but if you say one word I will stab you with a spoon. Magnus tilted his head. You're glowing. Elias scowled. I'm sweaty. You're radiant. I'm homicidal. You're the most beautiful creature I've ever seen. Elias threw the spoon at his head. Magnus caught it. The symptoms begin. It wasn't just the weird cravings. It was the nausea, the sharp sensitivity to smells, the way his skin looked like it had been filtered by a luxury beauty brand. I'm either dying, Elias told his best friend over video call, or cursed. Or pregnant, the friend joked. Elias hung up immediately. The doctor visit. Magnus dragged him to a private physician on floor 47 of his skyscraper. A silent, sterile space where the doctor didn't ask questions and Magnus didn't blink once. After some awkward poking and prodding, the doctor smiled and said the words that broke reality. Congratulations, you're 6 weeks pregnant. Elias stared, then laughed, loudly, maniacally. I'm a man. Yes, the doctor agreed pleasantly. But you're also an alpha. Exactly. Magnus stepped forward, calm as ever. I suppose now is the time to tell you, he said, voice steady. I'm not a typical alpha either. Elias turned slowly. Magnus. Yes? What the hell are you? Magnus smiled, a little too gently. I'm an enigma. A what? An extremely rare genetic hybrid. I'm technically classified as an alpha, but I carry enigma biology. I can impregnate other alphas, given the right hormonal match. Elias's eye twitched. You're telling me I'm pregnant because you're a unicorn shifter, omega alpha whatever, hybrid. I had to make sure it was you, Magnus interrupted. I've been preparing the conditions for 3 years. Hormonal syncing, proximity calibration. The wine you drank that day was spiked with fertility enhancers. Natural ones, of course. Elias screamed and knocked over the exam table. Later that night, Elias sat in the garden, eating spicy tuna with whipped cream and crying. Magnus draped a cashmere blanket over his shoulders. Don't touch me, Elias sniffled. You ambushed my uterus. Magnus knelt beside him. I love you, and our baby. And I will give you anything, the world, a castle, the moon. Elias glared at him. You're lucky you're hot. I know. And that I kind of like the way you spoil me. Magnus smiled. Elias sighed. This is still not a honeymoon. Chapter 3. You're my everything. No returns. Elias had gone through many phases in life. Emo teen, chaotic flirt, bartender with commitment issues, but nothing had prepared him for the phase called pregnant in a billionaire's mansion, with the human equivalent of a loyal golden retriever who could also kill you. The chaos started at breakfast. Why are you crying over pancakes? Magnus asked, watching Elias sob over a cartoon-shaped pancake stack with strawberries. They're shaped like penguins, Elias sniffled. You like penguins, Magnus offered gently. That's not the point, Elias shouted. The point is my emotions are not food safe. Magnus looked down at his apron. It said, Kiss the CEO. Elias had probably burned it into existence with his glare. I'll make new ones, Magnus said softly. You can stab me later if you want. I already stabbed you with a toothbrush yesterday. I appreciated the dedication. Magnus, the soft tyrant. Ever since the pregnancy reveal, Magnus had gone full cling mode. He followed Elias to every room, tucked him in personally, built a walk-in wardrobe for Elias overnight, kissed his forehead before and after every argument. Once, Elias said he liked tulips. 2 hours later, the mansion was full of tulips, every color, some rare, some extinct, one possibly illegal. I swear to God, Elias muttered, stepping over a bouquet the size of a horse. If you're building me a throne of flowers, I will start charging rent. Magnus simply looked pleased. That's a wonderful idea. I've already started on the petals. Would you like sapphires in the design? Elias threw a vase at him. Magnus ducked, smiled, and ordered more tulips. Flashback 5 years ago. Back then, Magnus Thornhart wasn't the cold CEO. Not quite. He was still terrifying. Still rich, but quiet, calculated. And head over heels in love with a certain sharp-tongued bartender he saw every Friday at a rooftop bar. Magnus would sit at the darkest corner, order virgin drinks, and stare like a man possessed. Elias had no idea. He thought Magnus was just another rich man with dead eyes. But when some drunk investor tried to spike Elias's drink one night, someone dragged the man out, and the next morning the guy had publicly resigned and moved to an untraceable island. Magnus never spoke to Elias. He was too afraid. Because you were free, Magnus confessed one night, stroking Elias's hair as Elias pretended to sleep. And I knew if I touched you, I'd never let go. Office drama. Enter the rival billionaire. Elias got bored one afternoon and decided to crash Magnus's office. Your assistant said I'm allowed to disturb you whenever I feel like it, Elias chirped, lounging across the CEO's desk in designer pajamas Magnus had bought him the day before. She's correct, Magnus replied without looking up. You're allowed to do anything. Always. Elias stuck a sticker on his tie. even burn down your company. Would you like the matches alphabetically arranged or color-coded? Before Elias could tease further, the elevator doors opened. Enter Adrian Vale, billionaire, oil heir, public menace, and according to tabloid rumors, a man who liked pretty things with sharp tongues. Well, well, Adrian drawled, eyes raking Elias with interest. Didn't know Thornhart had taste. Elias blinked. Didn't know cockroaches could wear suits. Adrian grinned. Feisty. And then, the temperature dropped. Magnus looked up slowly. A beat passed. Then his voice, low, cold, lethal, sliced through the room. Adrian. Magnus. Adrian smirked. Didn't know you kept pets. The glass in Magnus's hand cracked. Elias blinked. The entire room felt colder. Magnus stood, walked over to Adrian with terrifying calm, and smiled the kind of smile wolves give before tearing out a throat. I've let you breathe too long, Magnus said, still smiling. One more word, and I'll buy your company, fire your staff, and gift wrap your entire stock portfolio to your least favorite ex. Adrian paled. Leave, Magnus added, voice like ice. Before I ruin your bloodline. Adrian fled. Later, Elias panics. That was hot. I mean horrifying. I mean, are you okay? Elias babbled as Magnus calmly poured him tea, pretending the death threat hadn't happened. I'm fine, Magnus said, placing a honey jar beside him. You didn't eat breakfast. Try this. It's imported. You went full mafia dom on a man because he looked at me too long. Yes, Magnus said without shame. You're mine. Elias blinked. I'm not a thing, Magnus. No, you're everything. Magnus leaned in, eyes soft and voice dangerous. And I don't return things that are mine. Elias's heart did a weird thing. Then he kicked Magnus in the shin. That night, Elias curled up in bed, Magnus beside him, reading a book titled Love Languages for Deranged Billionaires. I'm not your everything, Elias muttered. You are, Magnus whispered, and I'm yours. Says who? Says this. Magnus gently placed a hand on Elias's still flat belly. It's proof you didn't run away. Elias scoffed. I didn't have a choice. Magnus turned off the light. Now you do, and you're still here. Silence. Go to sleep, Elias muttered. Magnus smiled in the dark. Good night, love. Elias didn't say it back. But he didn't kick him out either. Chapter 4. I'm not in love. I'm just shut up. By month 4, Elias Crow had lost control of his life. And his waistline. You look like a snack, Magnus whispered one morning, eyes soft as he gazed at Elias wrapped in silken pajamas, glaring at a mirror. I look like a bloated squirrel. You look radiant. I look like I swallowed the moon. Magnus knelt beside him, kissed his belly. That's because you're carrying my universe. You're not allowed to say things like that while I'm trying to hate you. Paparazzi panic. It started with a blurry photo. Elias exiting Magnus's mansion in fuzzy bunny slippers and holding an ultra-expensive limited edition maternity drink. Then, the zoom-in shot of Magnus carrying Elias's designer diaper bag. Then Elias yelling at Magnus in the parking lot while Magnus held an umbrella over him with puppy eyes. And then, the bump reveal. Paparazzi went feral. #alpha pregnancy #billionaire. Baby drama #Elias Crow is pregnant trended worldwide in 15 minutes. Magnus, of course, released an official press statement. He is mine. He is safe. The child is ours. Touch him and you will regret it. Magnus Thornhart. Attached. A picture of Elias smirking while flipping off the camera with a diamond-studded ring. The bump boss era. By month 6, Elias was glowing, literally. His skin sparkled, his sass sharpened, and he wielded the baby bump like a weapon. Why are there 2 gold spoons in my yogurt? He barked one morning. I thought you might like to pick, Magnus offered gently. I want 3. You'll have 10. Elias had full control of Magnus's black card, staff, jet schedules, and possibly world peace. He yelled, he cried, he raged about food, He got tired. He snuggled. And Magnus? He followed him like a bodyguard trained in affection. He installed heated floors, imported mangoes from a private island, got a top Enigma doctor flown in every week, canceled billion-dollar meetings to paint Elias's toes. He's going to be insufferable once the baby comes, Elias muttered, while Magnus was spoon-feeding him soup and kissing his bump in between. He already is, replied Magnus without shame. The secret baby shower. That wasn't so secret. Magnus planned a surprise baby shower, which Elias absolutely found out about, because Magnus accidentally labeled the party file folder Operation Make Elias Cry Happy Tears. Elias crashed it. In a diamond-encrusted maternity robe, waddled in like a queen, made a dramatic speech, gifted himself a stroller from his own wish list, cried at the cake, then bit Magnus for planning a surprise in this economy of hormones. Magnus just hugged him. You're perfect. Elias sniffled. Damn right I am. Luxury wedding, pregnancy edition. They didn't even announce it. One day, Elias woke up to a beach filled with rose petals, the sea painted pink by the sunrise, and Magnus waiting with a velvet box. I already signed your ridiculous contract, remember? Elias groaned. This one comes with vows, Magnus whispered, and a ring that says mine. Elias waddled up to the altar barefoot, pregnant, moody, glowing, beautiful. They said I do with the baby kicking between them. Magnus cried first. So did Elias. Then Elias said, You look like a penguin in that tux, and I love it. The final month, chaos. Deluxe. Elias nearly gave birth in the car, on live TV. Breathe, Magnus screamed while he hyperventilated. I'm breathing, you dramatic clown. This is your fault. I know, and I'd do it again. The staff cleared roads. The mansion became a hospital. Magnus fainted twice. Elias threatened to name the baby capitalism out of spite. Then, a cry. A baby. Tiny, squishy, strong lungs. Magnus sobbed like a broken violin. Elias passed out holding his tiny child like a crown jewel. 1 week later. Magnus cradled the baby. Elias bossed everyone around from bed. The house smelled like flowers, formula, and chaos. Elias watched Magnus sing lullabies, off-key, teary, wearing a world's best husband and daddy apron. Elias bit his lip. I might be in love with you, he muttered. Magnus blinked. What? Shut up, Elias said. Don't ruin it. Magnus kissed his forehead anyway. I love you too, he whispered. Elias didn't say it back, but he didn't stop smiling for the rest of the day.